What happens when a small town's fragile peace between humans, vampires, and zombies is shattered by an alien invasion? From explosive battles to shocking betrayals, this wild ride through chaos and redemption will keep you on the edge of your seat. Can a werewolf, a vampire, and a zombie save their town and each other? You won't believe how it all ends. In the small Ohio town of Dilford, two things stand out: its legendary riblets and the fact that humans, vampires, and zombies coexist, albeit uneasily. Vampires dominate the social hierarchy, zombies occupy the lowest rung, and humans find themselves somewhere in the middle. One chaotic Friday night, Dagon and Lorelei are fleeing from a group of enraged vampires. Behind them, a massive explosion erupts, consuming a hapless human caught in the chaos. Dodging flames and a police car that nearly crushes them, the two teenagers take refuge in a nearby house. However, their sanctuary is soon compromised when they realize the place is teeming with zombies. Before they can escape, vampires begin smashing through doors and windows. One grabs Lorelei, but Dagon pulls her away just in time. The living room devolves into a frenzied clash of creatures, a chaotic scene only interrupted when a police car crashes through a wall, exposing an alien spaceship hovering ominously above the town. This catastrophe traces back to events at school just a day earlier. Dagon confides in his friend about his plans to win over Lorelei, the popular girl, but his friend warns him that Lorelei is just using him. Unconvinced, Dagon later meets Lorelei, but fails to capture her interest. Meanwhile, Petra, a goth girl, attempts to flirt with Milan, a well-known vampire. Their conversation about an upcoming vampire party is interrupted when Ned, a quiet and awkward student, tries to retrieve something from his locker. Milan and another vampire shove Ned to the ground, but Dagon, witnessing the incident, chooses not to intervene. Frustrated, Ned later confronts his vampire teacher, Mr. Keller, about a failing grade on his essay. Keller admits the essay was well-written, but smugly reveals he gave it an F simply because he could. During lunch, Petra sits with her goth friends, who warn her about Milan's shady reputation. Despite their concerns, Petra continues pursuing him. At the same time, Ned is bullied again by Milan, who pushes him around in front of everyone. Chaz, a baseball player, also becomes the target of mockery when his teammates tease him about his brother, Ned. A zombie girl helps Ned clean up after his lunch tray is knocked over, offering him a rare moment of kindness. Later at baseball practice, Dagon's mood sours further when he encounters Rick, the man responsible for firing his mother from the riblet factory. Rick taunts Dagon relentlessly, and during practice, Dagon's anxiety affects his pitching. When Chaz steps up to bat and mocks Dagon in front of Lorelei, Dagon's frustration boils over, and he accidentally hurls the ball into Chaz's face, knocking him down. Strangely, Lorelei seems impressed by this moment. That evening, Petra and Milan are alone at a party in a trailer. When Milan tries to bite Petra, she hesitates, expecting only romance. Milan reveals he's already been with Lorelei and wants something special from Petra. Feeling flattered, Petra relents. Meanwhile, at Ned's home, his father berates Chaz for being injured, dismissing him as useless without baseball. During dinner, Ned's parents criticize him for rejecting riblets, unaware that Ned is allergic to meat and the factory-produced chemicals they contain. When an argument erupts, Ned retreats to his room, only to be followed by his parents, who express doubts about his ambitious dreams. Hurt, Ned leaves the house. At Dagon's home, he attempts to connect with Lorelei, who is more interested in the blunt she's retrieved from under his bed. Desperate, Dagon confesses his feelings, but Lorelei laughs it off and escapes through the window. Moments later, Dagon's parents discover the blunt and assume it belongs to him. They offer a well-meaning, if misguided, talk about life changes, leaving Dagon bewildered. Ned, wandering the zombie neighborhood, strikes up a conversation with the girl who helped him earlier. Curious about their unfeeling nature, he asks her to bite him, hoping to join their ranks. Afterward, he joins her family for dinner, sampling canned brains for the first time. Meanwhile, Petra, grappling with Milan's rejection and her newfound vampirism, hides her growing thirst for blood. She sneaks to a supermarket, purchases blood products, and consumes them in secret. Later that night, Dagon practices pitching while all three teens notice a brilliant light in the sky. A massive alien spaceship hovers above the town, sparking panic as photos flood the news. With tensions escalating, Rick rallies the humans in the high school gym, suspicious that the vampires may have already made contact with the aliens. Meanwhile, Keller gathers the vampires at the blood bank, urging them to strike preemptively against humans. In the zombie neighborhood, the lack of brain rations prompts frustration. Ned seizes the moment, delivering an inspiring speech that unites the zombies to take action. All three factions converge at the town square, where an all-out battle erupts. Objects become weapons, and no one is spared in the frenzy. Amid the chaos, Dagon and Lorelei retreat to his car, but Lorelei's manipulative nature resurfaces, leading them home. Petra confronts Milan, demanding answers. Milan coldly reveals he only used her to satisfy his thirst. Enraged, Petra fights back, but Milan overpowers her and leaves her in despair. At Dagon's house, he peers out the window, witnessing the neighborhood descending into absolute chaos. Fires rage across the streets as the town becomes a battleground. Lorelei tries to refocus him on their moment, but their plans are interrupted when a vampire crashes through the door, dragging a screaming human. The room is immediately filled with blood and panic. Forced to escape, Dagon and Lorelei leap out of the window, only to find themselves caught in an explosion's aftermath. Vampires ambush them, but Chaz Sr. appears just in time, armed with wooden stakes. Displaying surprising combat skills, he dispatches the vampires with brutal efficiency, sending showers of blood everywhere. As he explains the intense training he undertook for a situation like this, a group of zombies surrounds him. To Dagon and Lorelei's horror, Chaz Sr. is overwhelmed and devoured alive. Frozen in shock, the teens are quickly found by more vampires, forcing them to flee again, bringing the story full circle. Before long, Chaz Sr. rises as a zombie, adding to the chaos. Meanwhile, Petra emerges from the forest, furious after her encounter with Milan. Spotting Lorelei running with Dagon, she joins the vampires in pursuit. Dodging flaming police cars, Dagon and Lorelei take refuge in a nearby house. Inside, they find a small dog and, to their surprise, Ned surrounded by a group of zombies. Before they can even process what's happening, vampires break in, sparking a violent clash between the undead and bloodsuckers. Dagon and Lorelei try to flee upstairs, but Petra, desperate and enraged, attacks Lorelei, biting her neck. Dagon hesitates but eventually intervenes, shoving Petra down the stairs and falling with her. As chaos continues, Dagon grabs a sharp wooden object and stakes a vampire, only to be attacked by another. He improvises with a wooden fish ornament to defend himself. Meanwhile, Ned fends off a vampire by biting its thumb and spitting it back into its face. The vampire stumbles, causing more chaos as another police car crashes through the house, running over a vampire. Now, only Dagon, Petra, and Ned remain standing. Before they can confront each other, a strange light draws their attention outside. Emerging from the smoke is a horde of aliens with tentacle-like appendages that pierce through anything in their path. In shock, Dagon rushes to a nearby trapdoor, calling for his piano teacher, Mrs. Miller. She hesitantly lets them into the bunker after her son, Stuart, bombards them with absurd security questions to confirm their identities. However, the situation turns grim when Ned and Petra, overcome by their monstrous instincts, harm and devour Mrs. Miller and Stuart. Horrified, Dagon prepares to fight but is convinced by Petra to stay with them for survival. Hours pass and tensions rise as they try to talk. Petra questions Dagon's feelings for Lorelei, accusing him of hesitating to save her earlier. Dagon denies it, but Petra's words sting. Meanwhile, Ned regains some of his intellect the longer he goes without consuming brains. He and Dagon's past friendship comes up, but Dagon avoids discussing why they drifted apart. Determined to check on his family, Dagon insists on leaving the bunker, despite Petra reminding him of the alien threat. He proposes starving Ned long enough to devise a plan against the aliens. The next morning, the group ventures outside, but Petra collapses under the sunlight. Dagon quickly removes his clothes to shield her, narrowly saving her. As they navigate the streets, aliens appear again. Dagon realizes they ignored him while he was unclothed, prompting Ned to theorize that the aliens can only detect synthetic materials in clothing. Stripping down, the trio confirms this and moves undetected through the alien-infested town. Rain forces them to take shelter in Dagon's house, which appears abandoned. Sharing clothes, they discover a noise from the basement and rush down, only to be ambushed by an alien. Its tentacle grabs Ned, but Dagon pulls him free. When the alien attempts to pierce Dagon, Ned eliminated himself, taking the hit and disintegrating. Petra retaliates by decapitating the alien. Grieving, Dagon reflects on his guilt over never defending Ned in school, despite admiring him. As he laments, Ned suddenly reappears, explaining that the alien's tentacles teleport victims rather than unalive them. Petra's attack disrupted the process, allowing Ned to return. The revelation that the townspeople might still be alive reignites their hope. Ned also deduces the alien's target, TXB chemicals found in riblets, and shows a severe allergic reaction from his alien encounter as evidence. The next morning, Dagon, Petra, and Ned head to the riblet factory, donning outfits made from organic cotton to remain invisible to the aliens. Upon arrival, Rick reluctantly allows them entry, but not without persuading Dagon to admit an embarrassing secret first. Once inside, the trio explains the dire situation, pleading with Rick to help save the town. However, Rick, unimpressed, declares that the townspeople are too chaotic to deserve rescuing. Tensions rise, and just as an argument is about to erupt, screams echo from another room. The group rushes in to find Ned devouring Rick's girlfriend. Enraged, Rick kicks the trio out of the factory. Undeterred, Dagon devises a bold plan. They will intentionally attract the aliens' attention and allow themselves to be teleported to the citizens' location. The plan works, and the trio is suddenly transported to a massive facility resembling a superstore. Inside, they discover that the townspeople are separated by species, confined behind shimmering force fields. Petra is quickly confronted by Milan, who attempts to drink her blood. She retaliates with a well-placed punch, leaving him doubled over. Meanwhile, Ned reunites with his father and brother, who are now zombies. Apologies and heartfelt reconciliations follow, mending their fractured relationship. Dagon locates his parents in the human section and is relieved to find Lorelei alive, though now a vampire because of Petra's earlier bite. Separated by a force field, they manage to exchange words, and Lorelei warns Dagon about the dangers ahead. Dagon and Petra regroup with Ned, urging him to figure out how to disable the force fields. Ned recalls an incident from school when he hacked the system to display an inappropriate animation of dogs, inspiring him to propose a distributed denial of service, DDoS, harm on the security system. To make it work, everyone in the facility must hit the force field simultaneously to overload the system. Convincing the divided groups proves challenging as old prejudices resurface. It's only after Dagon delivers an impassioned speech, followed by his father chanting patriotic slogans, that the citizens unite. Together, they charge the force fields, overwhelming the system and breaking free. As the groups flee to the riblet factory, Rick confronts them with a firearm, refusing to let them in. Once again, Dagon appeals to Rick's ego with a rousing speech, prompting the crowd to chant Rick's name. Flattered, Rick relents and opens the gates. Unfortunately, the alien smoke follows, bringing a swarm of extraterrestrials. Rick distracts the aliens, luring them toward a vat of unprocessed riblets. The massive alien machines open up, revealing tiny creatures piloting them. The miniature aliens dive into the vat, causing the mixture to glow and pulse. In a flash of light, the aliens merge into a single, glowing entity. The newly fused alien chastises the townspeople, quoting a Billy Joel song as it explains that the imprisonment was meant to protect them from their own destructive tendencies. Petra, unimpressed, mocks the alien's condescension, inspiring Rick to hurl a wrench at it. Enraged, the alien retaliates, using its colossal limbs to attack. Keller is crushed into a bloody mist, and Petra is knocked into an ammonia hose, which sprays the alien with corrosive liquid. Realizing the alien's vulnerability, Dagon organizes the citizens to spray more ammonia, weakening the creature. During the chaos, Milan seizes the opportunity to grab Petra and trap her in a storage room. Remembering her earlier words about hesitation, Dagon springs into action, confronting Milan. The fight quickly turns against Dagon until the full moon emerges, triggering his transformation into a werewolf. With his newfound strength, Dagon battles Milan on equal footing. Milan attempts a final harm with a sharp object, but Dagon dodges, causing Milan to impale himself on a wooden spike and explode in a fiery burst. Meanwhile, the citizens' relentless efforts reduce the alien to a shriveled, defeated form. As Ned tries to capture it, the alien summons its spaceship, releasing a subatomic fusion bomb as it escapes. Ned, determined to prove himself, catches the bomb and tosses it to Dagon. With werewolf precision, Dagon hurls the bomb back at the spaceship, destroying it in a spectacular explosion. Days later, the town begins rebuilding, and life slowly returns to normal. At school, Dagon is now a local hero, earning newfound popularity. Lorelai attempts to rekindle their connection, but Dagon chooses Petra instead. The two walk off together, sharing a moment of closeness on the bleachers. Meanwhile, Ned bonds with Chaz and the zombie girl, finding a sense of belonging. Did you see that coming? From alien invasions to werewolf transformations, this story proves that even the most divided communities can come together in the face of disaster. Who would you side with, humans, vampires, or zombies? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more epic tales of survival and unity. Until next time, remember, even in chaos, there's always hope.